Right, where's that pen? Great. Now, let me see. Dear Doctor Who magazine, I am writing to display, state, say how annoyed I am at the cover of your recent magazine issue, what is it, 493. On the cover of your magazine, it is clear that Clara is working in a American style diner and is not dead at the hands of a raven. Not since the ridiculous, pointless, stupid, thoughtless use of Dalek sick on the cover of the Radio Times has there been such a balls up, mess up, mistake. We now know that Clara is destined to return for at least one more story. I know that Mr. Moffat wants his Adric death scene / scar on people's childhoods, but this is ridiculous. Yours sincerely, Tin Dog. Right, let's record this review.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast, this time covering Face the Raven, episode 10 of 12 of 2015 of Doctor Who. Yes, Face the Raven sees the return of the Mayor, Lady Me, the person who keeps forgetting who she is, so you get a distilled version of the character who's slightly more cynical every time we meet her, but is still basically a shielder. Yes, the elephant that is in the room, that is Clara Oswald's apparent demise, will be dealt with later. Because let's deal with the entire rest of the story, because that major plot arc storyline thing, that's just going to be dominating everyone's chat. I'm here to talk about the minutiae, the pointlessness, the little stuff that happened in the episode, the stuff that you are watching and make you go, okay. Things like Bobby Thompson's gag about Waterloo and the station and the battle and that kind of thing. That's the sort of thing that I really feel I should be fixating on, not some woman's apparent demise. And I keep using the word apparent for reasons which I'll be going into later. So yeah, there are things that should be brought up, that should be mentioned. Things like, why couldn't we have had an old school Cyberman? Or why was there an Ood there? One of the Ood with the brain control thing. Obviously he's fallen through time. Is it the same Ood that's in the Amy Pond spin-off stories? Is that where he ended up? And so on. Why are the aliens disguised as people, a bit glitchy and not very good aliens? And yeah, those are the things that need to be dealt with. But you know what? It was a decent enough episode, a decent enough storyline. Now, as you know, I'm married to one of the not we. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. No, I'm not keep telling myself that I'm married. I keep telling myself that she's not one of the not we. But we always watch Doctor Who together as a kind of ritual. And then, when we were watching this particular episode, at the beginning, she turns to me. In fact, she doesn't turn to me at all. She merely says the following phrase. Just noticed, it's a woman writer. Please don't let us down. She didn't want the woman writer, the female author, to let down the side of womankind, if such a thing exists. And you know what? I think she's fine. I don't think that happened at all. There was very little letting down. Very little. There's a few things worthy of comment, but that's just the nature of the beast. And of course, at the beginning, once we were on Diagon Alley, my wife did say, "Oh, is he going to visit his former self and buy himself a wand?" Now that's about as metatextual as you can get round these parts. Yes, the place did look a bit like the shambles in York, but let's not hold that against it. If you were told to design a place that looked like a bit of London from the time before the Battle of Waterloo, you'd build something that looked a lot like the set at the end of The Visitation. Because that's what it looks like in real life. Because that's what the shambles look like. They look like a TV studio in real life. So yeah, particularly accurate, particularly well thought out. And yes, it was Diagon Alley crossed with the Mos Eisley Cantina. But that was what the story demanded. Yes, Ishilda did say she'd look after the people that the Doctor left behind who were frightened of him. And yes, it is a theme that's been visited many times, and I'm looking at you, Kate Orman, when I talk about this, in your books, let's say Return of the Living Dad, for example, which is particularly good. Abandoned people left to pick up the pieces after the Doctor. Yes, that's what this place is. And no one was particularly shifty about the fact that he was the Doctor. Some of them had never even heard of the Doctor. So yeah, that business with the Raven, particularly well done. Nice visual effects. And yeah, at this point I would normally interject some sort of sample from Jonathan Strange, but I can't really be bothered. Because if you could just imagine one going here, something really good about ravens, that would be brilliant and very useful. And save me a lot of hassle. Oh, now last week, and I may have missed this, there was a reference to the Space Pirates. And this week we've got a reference to the Reign of Terror. Has there been a reference to missing or old Hartnell stories in every single story? I might have to go back and re-examine it. You see, this is the sort of minutiae that us podcasters, we get hooked on. The actual general public will be all fixated on that one scene, Clara's apparent demise. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to discuss things like, two-faced people, do they work on TV? Yes, the video effect was as good as it could be, but it's still going to always look a bit odd, and should they ever really bother? It's the sort of thing that belongs in Gentleman Broncos or in literature, in sci-fi, because you can suspend your disbelief and you can see it, but when you've got the thing in front of you, you just go, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no. Oh, I don't know. It's a bit on the nail on the head, isn't it? Or perhaps, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit harsh. So yes, I've not even mentioned Rigsy, and his character is the main driving point of the whole plot. Perfectly good performance, ideal candidate for a companion, but of course the fact that he now has a relationship and a small child means that he's instantly ruled out and is not allowed to travel the universe, because the adventure's over once you've settled down. Don't you know that? That's the sort of message that we're getting from the BBC. Oh, was I the only person who expected Riggsy's wife to be one of the two-faced people, or one of the aliens, and the mind wipe will have affected him, and his child was also a time seer and that kind of business? But I guess that was just something. And was the child called Jenna Louise? Was that just odd? Was that just too metatextual again? I'm using metatextual, I'm so sorry. I'm not that kind of podcast. I'm here to celebrate Doctor Who, I truly am. So yeah, there was, let's deal with it now, the long, drawn-out, pointless death scene. Now, the thing is, as you've probably heard in the introduction, there is a picture of Clara on the front of, Doctor Who magazine, which is very nice, and she's all dressed like she's a waitress in an American diner. Now, that could be one of the facets, one of the shards of Clara, not the real thing, but that the Doctor could visit in order to say goodbye, so that he could be saved one last time by a Clara. And this is the death of Clara Prime. It is real. It feels real for one reason to me. Here's the point where her apparent preferences are dealt with, dealing with conversations about her author. When she says, and you can take that any way you want, basically they're getting all of everything lined up in order to go, thanks. Clara has become beyond reckless. She is awful in this story. When she's hanging out the TARDIS, shouting and whooping, you know there's something seriously wrong with this person. She has literally got a death wish. She is pushing and pushing and taking it too far. And like the Doctor says, he's less breakable than her. Has she got a death wish, or has she just forgotten and just has faith that the Doctor will always sort things out? Perhaps what we need in the TARDIS is a coward again. Perhaps. I just don't know. So has Clara gone? Well, next week's episode is just the Doctor by himself, wandering aimlessly around some sort of landscape, possibly talking directly to camera, possibly to himself. I hope it's to himself, I truly do. But yeah, that ending. Now, he gets given a teleport bracelet, and the teleport bracelet is to take him to, I'm assuming, big villain, but he also has to have the disc. Now, the thing is, a teleport bracelet, see Blake 7 at this point, usually travels with you, which means as far as I'm concerned, he's been intercepted and somebody else has taken him. So the person who originally wanted him, the person who originally set all this up, doesn't have the Doctor and somebody else has him for next week, because the teleport bracelet remained behind. And the teleportation effect took so much longer than you would think. Perhaps we're just used to Star Trek. Perhaps the episode was just running a little bit short and they needed to fill it out. I mean, we've all seen Darth Merengue. So yeah, you can take it any way you want. A perfectly good story from a perfectly good author. Thank you. And if this is the end of Clara, well, it's been a wonderful ride, and thank you. And I'm sorry if the cynic in me just didn't get emotionally affected by her departure. But perhaps I will next week, or the week after, or eventually. Let's go with eventually. So until next time, when I'll probably be speaking about Doctor Who, be seeing you. You've been listening to the Doctor Who Tin Dog podcast. Available on RSS, iTunes, Audioboom, Tumblr, and wherever podcasts are found. Why not become a supporter of the show by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Doctor Who and its associated properties are copyright of the BBC and no infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.